We're on lesson 5 of chapter 8, which we're going to factor x squared plus bx plus c. First, we're going to factor for positive and negative examples. Then we're going to solve a polynomial equation. Then we're going to solve a real-world problem. When you have this expression x squared plus bx plus c, factoring it usually makes it easier to solve. Well, when you factor it, it's going to turn into x plus p times x plus q, provided that when you add p and q together, it's going to equal b, and when you multiply p and q together, you get c, which I call b is the sum, c is the product. Let's use an example just to teach that here. I have x squared plus 5x plus 6. So I need to think of two numbers, p and q, that when added together equal 5, but when multiplied together equal 6. Well, 3 and 2 would fit that bill. 3 plus 2 is 5. 3 times 2 is 6. And that's the explanation over here. So this would be the factor of this expression, and you can multiply it out just to check. Let's try a practice one ourselves. We have y squared plus 8y plus 15. So now I need to think of factors of 15. That when added together equal 8. Factors of 15 are 1, 3, 5, and 15. Well, I notice that 3 plus 5 equals 8, and then 3 times 5 is 15, so that these would become my factors. I would have y plus 3, and then y plus 5. And that could be in any order. Let's try these out. This first one we have x squared plus 11x plus 18, and we only have plus signs here. And these are usually the easiest ones to solve, as you don't have to worry about any negative numbers. So this is the b, and this is the c. So I need to think of factors of 18 that when added together equal 11. Well, the factors of 18 are 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 18. Two factors that when added together equal 11 would be 9 and 2. So my factors would be x plus 9 and then x plus 2. Remember, that could be in either order, and that would be my factorization. Now I have n squared minus 6n plus 8. Here you notice that the sum is negative and then the product is positive. Whenever you see a positive product, that means that both numbers either need to be positive or negative, because a positive times a negative is a negative number. And since I see that the sum is negative, that means it's got to be two negative numbers. So as I'm writing out the factors of 8, 1, 2, 4, and 8, I'm looking for two negative factors that would add to negative 6. So if this was negative and this was negative, that would be the case. So negative 2 and negative 4. So that would give me n minus 2 times n minus 4. When multiplied, that gives me positive 8. When added, that gives me minus 6. Now I have y squared plus 2y minus 15. Whenever you see a negative product, that tells me it's got to be a positive and a negative added together, because if they were exactly the same, you would have a positive product. So as I list off the factors of 15, 1, 3, 5, and 15, I need to find a positive that would be 2 bigger than the negative. Well, if a 5 was positive and the 3 was negative, that would be 2 bigger. So my factorization would be y plus 5. The 5 needs to be positive here. Then y minus 3. Positive 5 times 3 is negative 15. Positive 5 plus negative 3 would be positive 2. Let's solve polynomial equations then. We have x squared plus 3x equals 18. Remember, we need to solve for these equations just like last lesson. We need to have a 0 over here. So we could subtract 18 from both sides. So that would give me x squared plus 3x minus 18 equaling 0. Here I see a negative product. That means it's got to be a positive and a negative number. So let's list off the factors of 18. 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 18. Since b is positive, I'm looking for a positive number that's 3 bigger than the negative number. Well, 6 is 3 bigger than 3, so I'd have a positive 6 and a negative 3. So if I write this out, it'd be x plus 6 and then x minus 3, and that equals 0. So you remember last lesson, if this was a and this was b, one of these has to be 0 to equal 0. So x could be negative 6 or it could be positive 3. Both of those would equal 0. So you get two answers for this equation. Now I have s squared minus 2s equals 24. So let's subtract the 24 from both sides to get 0. So that leaves me with s squared minus 2s minus 24. So since I have a product that is negative, it must be a positive and a negative being multiplied. So I write out the factors of 24. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and 24. Since b is negative here, I'm looking for a negative factor that is 2 bigger than a positive factor. Well, I have 6 and 4, which is 2 bigger. I also have 8 and 6. Well, which one multiplies to 24? Oh, that would be the 4 and the 6. So therefore, my 6 would have to be negative, and my 4 would have to be positive. So if I factor this out, it would be s minus 6, and then s plus 4, and that equals 0. I forgot to put that up here. So now either this one needs to be 0 or this one needs to be 0. If this was 0, that would be positive 6, or this would be negative 4. So these are my two answers for this factor. Let's solve a real-world problem. It says you are making banners to hang during School Spirit Week. Each banner requires 16.5 square feet of felt and will be cut as shown. Find the width of one banner. This would be much easier if these two banners were put into one piece. And you notice if we rotate this shape, it would fit perfectly like so. So it looks like they took one piece of cloth and they cut it like this. So if I would fill out the rest of these dimensions, this would still be W. This is W, this is 4. Over here would be 4. So this would be another 4 feet right here. Since each banner requires 16.5 square feet, if I multiply that by 2 because there's two banners, that would give me a total of 33 square feet. So that's my equal sign on this equation. Remember, whenever you find the area, you got to multiply one side times the other, the length times the width. So the length is W, and that would be times 4 plus 4 is 8, plus W, so W plus 8. So we have W times W plus 8 equaling 33. If I do distributive property, I would have W squared plus 8W equaling 33. So now I can make this a 0 here, so I can subtract 33. Let's rewrite this equation on the top right. So we have W squared plus 8W. Now we have minus 33. Since I have a negative product, I need to have a positive and a negative factor. Let's do the factors of 33. That would be 1, 3, 11, and 33. Since the sum is positive 8, I'm looking for a positive factor that is 8 larger than the negative factor. Well, I see 11 is 8 larger than 3. So if I'd write my factors out, it would be W plus 11, because the sum is positive, and that's bigger, and then W minus 3. And that needs to equal 0. Well, what would solve this equation? Well, we need to have negative 11 to make that 0, or we need to have positive 3 to make that 0. And here's where you have to use common sense. If we're finding the width of the banner, the width can't be negative, so that means it has to be positive 3 for the width. So we would say it's 3 feet wide.